Jake Miller felt his cargo ship shake as something pulled it out of hyperspace without warning. The Lucky Strike groaned under forces that should not exist in empty space. Warning lights flashed across his control panel, while alarms screamed through the small cockpit. He fought with the controls, but gravity from an unknown source dragged his vessel toward a blue and green planet that appeared on no star chart he knew. The Kyo ship hit atmosphere hard, and Jake strapped himself in tight as the hull heated up around him. Trees and mountains rushed past his viewport as he tried to find somewhere safe to land. The engine sputtered and died just as he spotted a clearing near some ancient stone buildings. The Lucky Strike hit ground with a crash that threw him against his restraints and filled the cabin with smoke. Jake checked himself for injuries and found only bruises. His cargo of mining equipment had shifted, but the hull held together. Emergency power kept basic systems running while he gathered supplies from the ship. The air outside tested safe to breathe, and gravity felt close to Earth normal. He grabbed his sidearm, medical kit, and emergency rations before stepping onto alien soil for the first time. The ruins nearby looked old beyond measure. Tall spires of black stone reached toward twin suns that hung in a purple sky. Strange symbols covered the walls, and Jake wondered what people had built this place and where they had gone. The crash had scared away most wildlife, but he could hear distant sounds that might have been voices. Jake climbed a small hill to get a better view of his surroundings. The landscape stretched out in rolling plains covered with silver grass that moved in patterns he had never seen before. In the distance, he could make out what looked like a city with towers that seemed to grow from the ground itself, rather than being built. The voices grew louder, and Jake saw figures moving near the ruins below. He pulled out his binoculars and watched as 6 beings in dark armor surrounded 3 others who wore lighter clothing. The armored figures carried weapons that glowed with blue energy, while their targets seemed to have only simple tools. One of the surrounded figures fell, and Jake could see bright red blood spreading across light blue skin. The being appeared female and young, with long silver hair that caught the alien sunlight. The armored attackers moved closer with their weapons raised. Jake had served in the Earth Defense Corps before becoming a cargo pilot. He knew what execution looked like, and something in him would not let it happen while he watched. He grabbed his rifle and spare ammunition, then ran down the hill toward the ruins. The attackers were focused on their prisoners and did not see him coming. Jake took cover behind a fallen stone pillar and aimed at the leader of the armored group. His first shot took down the figure with the largest weapon. The others spun around in confusion as Jake moved to new cover and fired again. Human weapons designed for warfare proved effective against alien armor. Jake used tactics learned in training to divide the attackers and pick them off one by one. The remaining figures retreated when their leader fell, dragging their wounded with them as they disappeared into the ruins. Jake approached the 3 survivors carefully with his weapon ready. 2 of them were clearly dead, but the female with silver hair still breathed in shallow gasps. Her skin was pale blue with darker markings that looked like tattoos or natural patterns. Large golden eyes looked up at him with intelligence and something that might have been gratitude. She spoke in a musical language he did not understand, but her tone suggested questions. Jake knelt beside her and opened his medical kit while speaking slowly in Galactic Standard, the trade language used by most spacefaring cultures.
Can you understand me?
I want to help. The being nodded weakly and replied in broken Standard. You saved us, why? Her voice carried an accent unlike anything Jake had heard before, but he could understand her words. Because it was the right thing to do, Jake said as he examined her wounds. The energy weapons had burned through her light armor in 2 places but missed vital organs. He applied emergency medical patches and injected her with human painkillers that seemed to work on her alien biology. I am Princess Zara of the Calvari people, she said, as the medicine took effect. Those who attacked us served the rebels who would see my mother's throne fall. They wanted to take me alive to force her surrender. Jake helped her sit up against a stone block. I'm Jake Miller, cargo pilot from Earth. Can you travel? This doesn't seem like a safe place to stay. Princess Zara tested her legs and found she could stand with help. The capital city lies beyond those hills. My mother's guards will be searching for me, but the rebels may return with more warriors. We should leave this place quickly. Jake supported the princess as they made their way toward his crashed ship. The Lucky Strike had taken damage, but the medical bay still functioned, and he was able to treat her wounds properly. Princess Zara studied the human technology with curious eyes while Jake worked. Your people build differently than ours, she observed. Everything seems designed for conflict. Humans have fought a lot of wars, Jake admitted. We learned to build things that last through trouble. He finished bandaging her wounds and helped her into the passenger seat. Can you guide me to your city? The journey took several hours across terrain that challenged even Jake's piloting skills. Princess Zara proved to be good company, asking questions about human culture and sharing stories of her own people. The Calvari sounded like a peaceful race that valued art and philosophy above warfare, which explained why the rebels thought kidnapping their princess would work. The capital city appeared before them as the twin suns began to set. Towers of living crystal grew from the ground in spirals that caught and reflected the sunset in thousands of colors. Gardens filled the spaces between buildings while streams of clear water flowed along perfectly carved channels. Jake had never seen anything so beautiful. Guards in ceremonial armor met them at the city gates and escorted them through streets filled with curious Calvary citizens. Word of the princess's rescue had already spread, and crowds gathered to see the strange alien who had saved their beloved royal family member. The palace stood at the city's heart, a massive structure that seemed to pulse with soft light from within its crystal walls. Jake felt very small as they approached the throne room, where Princess Zara's mother waited to greet them both. Queen Vessa stood 8 feet tall with skin that shimmered like polished silver under the crystal palace lights. Her crown appeared to be grown from the same living crystal as the city walls, and her robes flowed like liquid starlight. When she saw her daughter enter the throne room, tears of relief streamed down her face. "My beloved child," the queen said as she embraced Princess Zara carefully. "When the guards reported you missing, I feared the worst." Her golden eyes then turned to Jake, and he felt the weight of her attention like a physical force. "And you must be the brave soul who brought her home safely." Jake felt awkward standing in his dirty flight suit before alien royalty, but he managed a respectful bow. "Your Majesty, I'm glad I could help. Your daughter is very brave. Modest as well as heroic," Queen Vessa observed with a smile that transformed her regal features. "I am in your debt, Jake Miller of Earth. Name any reward, and it shall be yours." "I appreciate the offer, but I don't need a reward," Jake replied. "I do need to repair my ship and continue my cargo run. The mining colony on Kepler 7 is waiting for their equipment." The Queen's expression shifted in a way Jake could not quite read. "Of course you must see to your duties, but surely such important business can wait a few days while we show proper gratitude. Our best technicians will examine your vessel and ensure it receives the finest repairs." Jake wanted to refuse, but found himself agreeing to stay for a short time. The next morning he discovered that Calvari hospitality meant luxury beyond anything he had experienced. His guest quarters were larger than most apartments, with walls that showed views of alien landscapes that changed throughout the day. Food appeared whenever he felt hungry, and servants anticipated his needs before he knew them himself. Princess Zara visited him daily, her wounds healing quickly thanks to advanced Calvari medicine. She peppered him with questions about Earth and human civilization, while sharing stories of her own people. Jake learned that the Calvari had ruled this region of space for thousands of years through wisdom and diplomacy, rather than conquest. "We have always believed that violence should be the final choice, not the first," she explained as they walked through the palace gardens. "Perhaps that is why the rebels think they can succeed through force." "Sometimes peaceful people have to fight to stay peaceful," Jake said. "It's not fair, but it's how the universe works." Days passed, and Jake began to worry about his schedule. When he asked about his ship, Queen Vessa assured him that repairs were proceeding but would take longer than expected. The damage had been more extensive than first thought, and some components would need to be specially manufactured. Jake requested permission to inspect the work himself, but found his access restricted to certain areas of the city. Guards always accompanied him with explanations about security or safety concerns. His ship sat in a government facility where he could see it but not reach the important parts. "Mother has assigned you to help solve some problems we have been facing," Princess Zara told him one evening. "She believes your human perspective might offer solutions our people have not considered." The first problem involved defending the city against rebel attacks. Jake studied their defense systems and found them impressive but predictable. He suggested modifications that would make their shields more effective while using less power. The improvements worked so well that Queen Vessa asked him to review their entire military strategy. Jake found himself spending more time in planning meetings than worrying about his cargo. The Calvari faced challenges that his engineering background could address. Their agriculture struggled with soil depletion that simple crop rotation could fix. Their manufacturing processes wasted energy that better designs could save. Each solution led to new requests for his expertise. Queen Vesa treated him like a valued advisor rather than a guest, seeking his opinion on matters ranging from trade negotiations to infrastructure projects. Jake realized he was becoming essential to their government's daily operations. "When will my ship be ready?" he asked the Queen during one of their meetings. "Soon, dear Jake," she replied with the same warm smile she always wore. "But surely you can see how much good you are doing here. Our people speak of you as a blessing from the stars." Jake began to understand that his ship might never be truly ready. Every week brought new delays and additional repairs that somehow became necessary. His cargo delivery was months overdue, but Queen Vesa dismissed his concerns with promises of compensation for any losses. Princess Zara seemed troubled by her mother's evasions, but said nothing direct. Instead, she began asking Jake about human concepts of freedom and choice. Their conversations took on a different tone as she learned about Earth's history of struggle against oppression. Humans seem to value the right to make their own decisions above almost everything else, she observed. "It's the foundation of who we are," Jake agreed. "We fought wars against our own species to establish that principle, even when staying might benefit everyone involved." Jake looked at her carefully. "Especially then. Good intentions don't justify taking away someone's freedom to choose." That night, Jake attempted to reach his ship using maintenance tunnels he had discovered during his work on the city's infrastructure. He made it within sight of the Lucky Strike before palace guards found him, and gently but firmly escorted him back to his quarters. No one accused him of wrongdoing, but security around him increased the next day. Queen Vesa seemed sad when she visited him the following evening. "You must understand the position you have placed me in, dear Jake. My people are thriving for the first time in generations. The rebels grow weaker each day as our defenses improve. Even our neighbors speak of new respect for cavalry strength." "I'm glad I could help," Jake said carefully. "But I have my own life to live. Do you?" the Queen asked softly. "Or has fate brought you here for a greater purpose? Sometimes individuals must sacrifice personal desires for the good of entire civilizations." Jake felt a chill as he realized the true nature of his situation. Queen Vesa had no intention of ever letting him leave. In her mind, keeping him served a greater good that justified any personal cost to him. She genuinely believed she was being reasonable and kind. Princess Zara stopped visiting him after that conversation, and Jake understood that she had been forbidden to see him. He was alone in a golden cage with no apparent way out. Jake spent his days studying the palace layout and his nights planning escape routes. The Calvari had underestimated human determination, but they learned quickly. Every path he discovered led to gentle redirection by guards who treated him with respect, while making his captivity clear. His ship remained visible but unreachable, missing key components that prevented any hope of flight. The Queen continued to consult him on various problems, treating their meetings as normal diplomatic exchanges. She spoke of his contributions to Calvary society with genuine gratitude, while ignoring his repeated request for freedom. Jake realized that arguing with her directly would accomplish nothing. Instead, he began to think like the engineer he had been trained to be. Every problem had a solution if approached correctly. Queen Vesa wanted his knowledge and skills to remain available to her people. He could not change that desire, but he might be able to change how it was fulfilled. Jake requested permission to teach Calvari engineers some basic human techniques. The Queen approved this eagerly, seeing it as evidence that he was accepting his new role. She assigned him a group of young technicians who showed aptitude for learning alien concepts. The first lesson focused on problem-solving approaches rather than specific technologies. Jake taught them to question assumptions and look for unconventional solutions. He showed them how humans broke complex challenges into smaller parts that could be addressed individually. Most importantly, he demonstrated the human refusal to accept that any problem was truly impossible to solve. "Your people think in straight lines," he told his students. "Humans think in circles and spirals and sometimes backwards. We ask what if and why not instead of accepting what has always been." Princess Zara appeared at one of these sessions, having convinced her mother that she needed to understand human methods for her future role as a leader. Jake was careful to treat her as he would any other student, but their eyes met with shared understanding of his true situation. The lessons expanded beyond engineering into philosophy and culture. Jake found himself explaining human history to Calvari, who had never encountered a species that seemed to thrive on conflict and change. They were fascinated by stories of humans who had overcome impossible odds through stubbornness and creativity. "My people believe in harmony and balance," Princess Zara said during one discussion. "But perhaps there is wisdom in your willingness to disturb the peace when it serves a greater purpose." Jake caught the subtle emphasis in her words. She was learning more than technical skills from these sessions. The human approach to problems was changing how she thought about her own situation and that of her people. Queen Vesa noticed the changes in her daughter and initially approved. Princess Zara showed new initiative in addressing governmental challenges and proposed solutions that demonstrated innovative thinking. The Queen praised Jake for his positive influence while remaining blind to the deeper implications of what he was teaching. Jake continued his instruction while watching for any opportunity to escape. The Calvari were kind captors, but still captors. Their surveillance was thorough without being oppressive, and their restrictions were absolute, despite being gently enforced. He began to understand that he would need help from inside their society to ever gain freedom. The breakthrough came when long-range sensors detected ships entering the Calvari system. Jake felt his heart race as he recognized the energy signatures of Earth fleet vessels. Someone had finally tracked his missing cargo ship and come looking for answers. Queen Vesa called an emergency council meeting that included Jake as a matter of course. The approaching ships had identified themselves as the Earth fleet vessel, Ranger under Commander Lewis. They requested permission to land and investigate the fate of one of their citizens. "This presents both an opportunity and a challenge," the Queen told her advisors. "We have always desired contact with other advanced civilizations. However, they come seeking to take away our greatest asset." General Thane, the leader of Calvari military forces, suggested that the human ships might pose a threat to their security. "We know little of their capabilities or intentions. Perhaps it would be safer to deny them landing rights." Jake felt compelled to speak despite knowing it might worsen his situation. "Your Majesty, Earth Fleet follows strict protocols for first contact situations. If you refuse to allow them to land, they will assume I am being held against my will. That could lead to conflict neither of our peoples wants. And if we permit them to land," the Queen asked, "they will want to verify my safety and give me the choice to leave with them." Jake answered honestly. Queen Vesa considered this information carefully. "Then we must demonstrate that you remain here by your own free will. You must convince them that Calvari hospitality has earned your loyalty." Jake realized that the Queen expected him to lie to his own people to protect her secret. The arrival of Earth Fleet had forced the situation into the open, but had not resolved it. If anything, his position had become more precarious. Princess Zara watched the discussion with thoughtful eyes. Jake could see that she was applying human problem-solving methods to analyze the situation from all angles. The lessons he had taught about questioning assumptions and refusing to accept impossible problems were taking root in her mind. "Perhaps there is a solution that serves everyone's needs," she said carefully. "Mother, you wish to retain access to human knowledge and skills. The Earth Fleet wishes to ensure the safety of their citizen. Jake wishes to fulfill his obligations and live freely. Must these desires be in conflict?" Queen Vesa looked at her daughter with surprise. "What do you propose?" "I propose that we think like humans about this problem," Princess Zara replied. "We look for the unconventional answer that turns conflict into cooperation." Jake felt a spark of hope as he recognized his own words being used against the trap that held him. Princess Zara had learned her lessons well and was now applying human thinking to a very human problem. The approaching Earth Fleet ships had changed the game, but the outcome remained uncertain. General Thane prepared defensive positions around the capital city, while Queen Vesa drafted messages of welcome to the human visitors. Jake found himself at the center of a first contact situation that could determine the relationship between two species. Everything depended on convincing the Queen that holding him prisoner would ultimately cost her everything she hoped to gain. The Earth Fleet vessel Ranger settled onto the landing pad with practiced precision, while Calvari officials gathered to witness first contact between their civilizations. Queen Vesa had chosen to greet the human visitors personally, with Jake standing beside her as evidence of the peaceful relationship between their peoples. Commander Lewis emerged from the ship, accompanied by a small diplomatic team that included Dr. Kate Foster, a xenobiologist with extensive experience in first contact protocols. Jake recognized the careful way they observed everything while maintaining respectful distance from their hosts. "Your Majesty," Commander Lewis said with a formal bow, "I am honored to meet you and grateful for your hospitality toward our citizen. I hope this encounter marks the beginning of positive relations between Earth and the Calvari people." Queen Vessa responded with gracious words of welcome while her advisors handled translation duties. Jake noticed that Dr. Foster was studying him carefully, looking for signs of distress or coercion. He tried to maintain a neutral expression while the formal greetings continued. "We have prepared quarters for your delegation and hope you will honor us with your presence at a welcoming feast tonight," the Queen continued. "Your citizen Jake Miller has become a valued friend to our people and has contributed greatly to our society." "That is wonderful to hear," Commander Lewis replied. "We look forward to learning about his experiences here. I trust he will be able to give us a full account of his time among your people." Jake caught the subtle emphasis in the commander's words. Earthfleet wanted to speak with him privately to assess his situation. Queen Vessa seemed to understand this as well and smoothly suggested that such conversations could take place during the evening's festivities. The welcoming ceremony proceeded according to Calvary customs, while Jake found himself caught between two groups of people who both claimed to have his best interests at heart. The Queen presented him as a willing advisor who had chosen to extend his stay, while the Earth Fleet officers clearly suspected something was wrong with that story. Dr. Foster managed to approach Jake during a quiet moment in the proceedings. "You look well, Mr. Miller," she said casually. "I hope your time here has been pleasant." "The Calvari are very hospitable people," Jake replied carefully, aware that guards were listening to every word. "They have shown me great kindness. I'm sure they have." "And your ship? I understand it was damaged in the crash that brought you here." "It's being repaired by their best technicians. The work is taking longer than expected due to the extent of the damage." Dr. Foster nodded with understanding that went beyond his words. She had handled similar situations before and recognized the signs of polite captivity. "Well, I'm certain Earthfleet can provide any assistance needed to get you back to your regular duties." That evening's feast demonstrated the full extent of Calvari culture and artistry. Food appeared that delighted human senses while musicians played instruments that created sounds unlike anything from Earth. Queen Vessa seated Jake at her right hand as a guest of honor while the Earth Fleet delegation received places of respect at the royal table. Princess Zara engaged Dr. Foster in conversation about human scientific methods while Commander Lewis discussed trade possibilities with various Calvari officials. Jake noticed that both sides were gathering information while maintaining diplomatic courtesy. The real confrontation came when Commander Lewis requested a private meeting with Jake to discuss his cargo delivery schedule and responsibilities. Queen Vessa agreed readily, confident that Jake would not risk creating an incident that might harm either civilization. "You're being held here against your will," Commander Lewis stated bluntly once they were alone in a side chamber. "The question is whether you want our help to leave or if there are factors we don't understand." Jake looked around the room and spotted the subtle surveillance devices he had learned to recognize. "The situation is complicated, Commander. The Calvari have legitimate security concerns, and I have been able to help them address some serious challenges." "That's not what I asked, Miller. Do you want to leave with us or not?" Jake hesitated, knowing that his answer would determine what happened next. "I want to complete my obligations and return to my own life. But I also don't want to see two good civilizations end up in conflict because of misunderstandings." Commander Lewis studied his face carefully. "You're trying to protect them from the consequences of their own actions. That's admirable, but it's not your responsibility. Maybe not. But I'm the one who has to live with whatever happens here." Dr. Foster entered the chamber with Princess Zara at that moment, and Jake could see that they had been having their own intense conversation. The princess looked troubled while the doctor appeared grimly satisfied about something. "Commander," Dr. Foster said quietly, "I believe we need to discuss the full situation with Queen Vessa. Princess Zara has been very enlightening about her people's current challenges." Princess Zara stepped forward with obvious nervousness. "I have told Dr. Foster about my mother's reasons for wanting Jake to remain here. She helped me understand that good intentions do not justify wrong actions. The confrontation moved to the throne room where Queen Vessa waited with her full council. General Thane had positioned guards throughout the chamber, while Dr. Foster presented Earthfleet's formal position on the situation. Your Majesty, we appreciate your hospitality and understand your admiration for our citizens' contributions, Dr. Foster began. However, we cannot allow any human to be held against their will, regardless of the benefits that might result. Queen Vessa maintained her dignified composure. Dr. Foster, I believe you misunderstand our arrangement. Jake Miller remains here as our honored guest and valued advisor. He is free to leave at any time. Then you will have no objection to his departing with us immediately, Commander Lewis interjected. The Queen's mask slipped slightly as she realized her bluff had been called. Surely such an important decision requires careful consideration. There are arrangements to be made, responsibilities to be transferred. There are no arrangements that cannot be handled by standard diplomatic channels, Dr. Foster replied firmly. If Mr. Miller wishes to leave, he may do so. If he wishes to return later as an official ambassador, that can be negotiated through proper procedures. General Thane stepped forward with his hand on his weapon. Perhaps the humans are the ones who should be concerned about leaving. They are far from their own territory and dependent on our goodwill for their safety. Jake felt the situation spiraling toward violence and knew he had to act. Wait, he said loudly enough to get everyone's attention. There's another way to handle this. All eyes turned to him as he stepped into the center of the confrontation. He thought about the lessons he had taught Princess Zara about human problem-solving and applied them to his own desperate situation. Jake stood in the center of the throne room with all eyes focused on him, as tension filled the air between two civilizations. He could feel the weight of decisions that might determine whether first contact led to friendship or war. Everything he had learned about both cultures during his time among the Calvari told him that this moment required careful words. Your Majesty, he began, addressing Queen Vessa directly, you have shown me great kindness and I have been honored to help your people. But Dr. Foster is right about human nature. We cannot be truly helpful when we are not truly free to choose. Queen Vessa's expression remained controlled, but Jake could see pain in her golden eyes. You would abandon us after seeing how much good you have accomplished? Your presence has brought hope to a people who had begun to lose faith in their future. I'm not talking about abandonment, Jake replied. I'm talking about finding a better way to work together. Princess Zara has learned to think like a human about problems. She knows that the best solutions often come from unexpected directions. Princess Zara stepped forward despite the obvious displeasure of her mother and the Calvari Council. Mother, I have spent weeks learning from Jake about human methods of solving impossible problems. He has taught me that forcing someone to help you is the worst way to get their best efforts. You are young and do not understand the responsibilities of leadership, Queen Vessa said sharply. Sometimes difficult choices must be made for the greater good. Whose greater good? Princess Zara asked with growing confidence. The humans will not trust us if we hold their people prisoner. Other civilizations will learn of our actions and judge us as kidnappers rather than partners. How does that serve our greater good? Dr. Foster watched the family argument with professional interest, while Commander Lewis kept his attention on General Thane and the armed guards. Jake realized that the real battle was taking place between mother and daughter, rather than between humans and aliens. Jake has proposed a solution that serves everyone's needs, Princess Zara continued. He has offered to return regularly as an official ambassador, bringing other human experts to help us modernize our society. In exchange, he must be free to leave and live his own life between visits. Pretty words, General Thane interjected. But once he leaves, what guarantee do we have that he will honor such promises? Humans are known for their deceptions and broken treaties. Jake felt anger rise at the insult but forced himself to respond calmly. General, you know me well enough by now to judge my character. But if you need guarantees, let me prove my commitment by helping you deal with the rebel threat that brought me here in the first place. Queen Vessa looked surprised. What do you mean? Your scouts report that the rebels have allied with the Vorthan Empire and are planning a major assault on your capital within days. Let me help you prepare a defense that will end their threat permanently. If I succeed, will you accept that my friendship is worth more than my captivity? The Queen exchanged glances with General Thane before nodding slowly. If you can help us defeat the rebels and their alien allies, I will consider your proposal seriously. Jake spent the next 2 days working with Calvari military leaders to prepare for the coming attack. He applied human tactical thinking to their advanced technology and created a defense plan that used the rebels' own expectations against them. The plan required coordination between ground forces, orbital platforms, and diplomatic deception that would have been impossible without trust between all parties. Commander Lewis and Dr. Foster provided intelligence about Vorthan military capabilities while Princess Zara served as liaison between human and Calvari forces. Jake found himself at the center of a cooperation that demonstrated what the two species could accomplish. Together, the rebel assault came at dawn on the third day with Vorthan warships providing orbital support for ground forces that outnumbered the capital's defenders. General Thane executed Jake's defensive plan with precision while Queen Vesa coordinated political responses that isolated the rebels from potential sympathizers. Jake personally led a strike team that captured the rebel leadership using tactics that combined human aggression with Calvari technology. The attack collapsed when its leaders were taken alive and the Vorthan ships retreated rather than face a prolonged engagement against an unexpectedly effective defense. Queen Vesa stood in her throne room that evening surveying reports of complete victory over forces that had threatened her reign for years. Princess Zara stood beside her with obvious pride in what had been accomplished through cooperation rather than coercion. You have kept your word magnificently, the Queen told Jake. Our people are safe and our enemies are defeated. I begin to understand what my daughter has been trying to tell me about the value of freely given friendship. Your Majesty, I meant every word of my offer, Jake replied. I want to help build a lasting relationship between our peoples. But it has to be a relationship between equals, not between captor and prisoner. Queen Vesa looked at her daughter and saw a reflection of her own younger self, before the weight of leadership had made her cautious and controlling. Zara, what do you advise? I advise that we trust in the friendship we have earned rather than trying to force loyalty we can never truly possess, Princess Zara said firmly. Jake has proven his commitment to our welfare. Now we must prove our commitment to his freedom. The formal ceremony took place the next morning with representatives of both civilizations present to witness the establishment of diplomatic relations between Earth and the Calvari people. Jake received official appointment as Earth's first ambassador to their world, while Queen Vesa signed agreements that guaranteed the safety and freedom of all human visitors. Dr. Foster worked with Princess Zara to establish protocols for cultural and scientific exchange, while Commander Lewis arranged for the repair of Jake's cargo ship using the finest technology both civilizations could provide. The Lucky Strike would carry more than mining equipment. On its next journey, Jake stood on the palace balcony that evening watching twin suns set over the Crystal City while Princess Zara joined him for a final conversation before his departure. We'll miss our discussions about human philosophy, she said with genuine warmth. You have taught me to think differently about leadership and responsibility. You taught yourself, Jake replied. I just showed you some new tools to use. Your people are lucky to have a future leader who understands that strength comes from cooperation rather than control. When will you return? Princess Zara asked. Jake smiled as he looked up at stars that no longer seemed like prison bars. Soon enough to help with whatever new impossible problems you discover. But this time I'll be coming home instead of being held captive. 6 months later, Jake returned to Calvos Prime aboard a proper diplomatic vessel, carrying a team of human specialists eager to work with their Calvary counterparts. Princess Zara, now serving as her mother's chief advisor on interspecies relations, greeted him as an equal and a friend. The Calvari civilization flourished with access to human innovation, while Earth gained a powerful ally in the galactic community. Queen Vesa had become one of humanity's strongest advocates among alien species, proving that former enemies could become the most loyal friends. Jake established profitable trade routes that included regular stops at Calvos Prime, demonstrating that mutual benefit worked better than coercion for everyone involved. As he prepared for his next departure, Princess Zara asked him about Earth with the eager curiosity of someone planning her own first diplomatic mission to human space. The story ended where it began, with Jake's ship launching toward the stars. But this time he was not escaping captivity. He was continuing a journey that now included 2 worlds instead of 1, bound together by friendship freely given and freedom freely chosen,